And so that brings us to the last of the eras, the fourth one, and that's the Tokugawa Shogunate. You may look at this lovely picture of this man here. This is actually a very important person in Japanese history. But the Tokugawa Shogunate, happens in the years 1560 to 1830. And what will happen is eventually the feudal age fighting, all of this war settles, and Japan is united under Tokugawa Ieyasu, who is this man right here. And Tokugawa, it just so happens that around this time that things settle, the first Europeans arrive into Japan. Now, this is around the year 1543. And with that, we have the Europeans, they're bringing firearms, guns, they have goods and religion. And what do they want? Of course, they want gold and silver. But Japan, being an island nation, doesn't have this. They do not have a lot of resources at all, let alone gold and silver. So, what do the Europeans decide to do? Well, they think, let's just make them Catholics. And so they send a number of missionaries over and they convert 300,000 Japanese to Catholicism. Now, think about this. Take a moment. If you're this guy right here, Tokugawa, and you just oversaw, Japan had hundreds of years of warfare fighting amongst itself. And now in come these Europeans. After finally uniting, in come these Europeans, and they're bringing weapons like guns, which it's not like a samurai sword. There's nothing honorable about a gun. They're bringing foreign religions, getting rid of their true Shinto beliefs and replacing it with foreign religions. And just think to yourself, imagine if you're this man, how he would have felt about that. And obviously he didn't like it. He didn't like having all these European influencers coming in, changing their culture, and changing their ways of life. So what does he do? He bans Catholicism in Japan, kicks out all of the Catholics that had converted, kicks them completely off the island. And he decides to close the doors to Japan for any foreigners for the next 200 years, all the way up until the year 1830. And if you think about what's happening in the rest of the world in that time, the world is modernizing. The world is pushing forward with new technology. You get the beginnings of steam power and trains and things like that. The world is moving forward. And Japan, throughout all that time, whenever someone would come knocking, they'd say, nope, we're good. We're good on our wooden fishing boat and our samurai swords. While the rest of the world is developing new weaponry, guns, things like that, Japan was very content with just staying to themselves. And so this is a little bit unique to them. They isolate themselves while the rest of the world moves forward until one day in the year 1830, in sails a boat into the harbor of Tokyo with guns ready to go. And they march up to, they land and they march up to the local warlords, and they hold a gun to them and say, "You're signing here. We're opening up trade to you." And if you had to guess who that was, it wasn't the British. It was not the French or the Spanish. It was the United States of America. We did that. We go in and we force them to open up and begin trading with us, with the rest of the world. And Japan is then able to modernize very, very quickly. And that puts them on a fast track to actually what ends up eventually being invading mainland China and into starting Pearl Harbor. So the fact that we forced them to open up like that. But just to recap, again, the Tokugawa era here, we have this feudal age fighting settling under Tokugawa. The Europeans arrive in 1543, bringing guns. They want gold and silver. Catholic missionaries convert people. That's when Tokugawa decides to ban them, and he closes the doors to all foreigners for the next 200 years.